Randy Wong. I'm the owner of 40 Pickleball and MidAtlanticPickleball.com. Pickleball is a racket sport, as is tennis, squash, ping pong. In this instance, you have a paddle, which is flat, no holes, no string, and you're hitting a ball, which is very similar. The pickleball is very similar to a wiffle ball that you'd play with as a kid. The most popular story is that pickleball was founded around 1960 by two Congress people, and they would summer in Bainbridge Island, and they came up with this sport called pickleball as a way to pass time with their kids. And I think this evolved over several summers. The point of this is that pickleball has been around for 50, 60 years, and suddenly we're seeing a boom in its popularity in the 2000 teens. The pickleball court is the same size as a platform tennis court or a badminton court. So it's a smaller court. It has a net which is almost exactly like a couple inches shorter than a tennis net. You know, compared to say a badminton net which is elevated or much higher. The ball's much lighter, much more sensitive to wind, court surface. An asphalt court probably you use a certain different ball compared to say to an indoor finished basketball court. It's kind of a sport which is a combination of every other racket sport. It's got the speed of badminton, it's got the speed of ping pong. It's got its own rules. Probably less running than tennis, but footwork is still important as it is in ping pong and squash. What's unique about this sport is that the surface of the paddle compared to other sports or rackets is smooth. So that takes a different type of skill, if you will, that you have to really hit through the ball because the surface is smooth. You can't really gain any friction or hold the ball. The extreme example would be like a tennis racket where the strings actually can bite and hold on to the ball, and then you can put topspin or slice. There's not so much English in pickleball, although it does exist. There are very few rules. The first rule is that you get one serve. You have to serve underhand, and it has to land in the cross-court area. There is a net. Just like tennis, it has to go over the net and bounce or land in the cross-court area. The return has to come over the net, but that ball must bounce also. So this is called the two-bounce rule. The first shot or the serve has to be allowed to bounce, and the return has to be allowed to bounce. And then kind of after that, it's just like tennis. You're just hitting it back and forth. You're allowed to volley, except you can't do it in what we call the no volley zone or the kitchen, which is really the first 7 feet away from the net. Within that zone, you can hit a ball, but you can only hit a ball if it has already bounced. I think the two bounce rule is probably the most difficult to understand in that it's the only sport where, number one, the serve is really not an offensive weapon, and the return is really the first time that the server has a chance to be offensive. So what I'm saying, what's difficult in that scenario is letting the second ball bounce. It's a must-have. If you hit it out of the air, if you hit the return of serve out of the air, you automatically lose the point. And that's different, I think, than any other racket sport. And the other mistake, it's really just not understanding the rules, is that you can't volley or land in the no volley zone, AKA the kitchen. That's very different than tennis. And again, that rule is that you cannot volley or land after having volleyed a shot within the kitchen, which is the first 7 feet closest to the net. That ball must have bounced before you hit that ball. That's unique to pickleball. Well, I was originally a tennis player. And I say originally because I played in high school and college and then through my adult years. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, just before COVID, my club asked me as a tennis player whether or not I would be interested in learning pickleball and promoting it at our club. And the answer was yes, of course. And we were able to grow the sport probably 20x. There were about 5 or 6 people that would play for about a year. And then I think within about a year and a half, we had over 100 regular players. I was a doubles player. I really like finesse, setting yourself up or setting your partner up to succeed, win a point. And that's what this game is really all about. It takes all the force. It's the opposite of tennis, where there's a lot of force. This is a lot more finesse. For the last 4 or 5 years, it has been the fastest growing sport in America. It's attracting the baby boomers. I think that's one reason for its growth. There are fewer hurdles to entry. That is, there's not a big learning curve to play this game. You have to be somewhat athletic. We're not concerned about form. The biggest concern about pickleball, as far as USA Pickleball is concerned, is to have fun and want to come back. And we always encourage you to have fun, but try not to get hurt. I think it's going to continue to grow and grow. The demographic is right. People my age still need to exercise and get out there, and there's lots of people. The baby boomers are really out there, really pushing this sport. But you know what? It's moving to the younger generation, and there's even now a professional sport. So you can't help but hear pickleball these days. So that I think as the sport gets more exposure, I think it's going to continue to be one of the fastest growing sports for years to come. There's a lot of reasons for it. There's a lot of interest. I think the barriers to entry are low. And again, the USA Pickleball is focused on fun compared to other techniques like tennis, where you have to have the most perfect stroke or strokes to hit the ball correctly. In this sport, you hit the ball how you'd like. If someone were to join a club, I think everyone's situation is going to be different. Some states, some areas really endorse pickleball, others not so much. It's going to be tough to find a dedicated pickleball indoor club like in the city, but it's probably going to have to be indoors. If you go out to the suburbs, it's going to be more likely you're going to find a tennis club of some sort that's going to be transitioning to pickleball. I know the YMCAs across the country are endorsing pickleball, so I would say avail yourself to whatever's in your locale, just so you can get a taste of it. It's an incredibly social sport, and people are going to probably bend over backwards to get you involved. I think it's very easy to find places to play for free, whether it's in someone's driveway with a portable net or on a tennis court with a portable net. You see tennis courts being turned over all the time these days because you can fit so many more pickleball players per square foot compared to tennis. If you're going to buy a paddle, pick something that is moderately priced. Don't go cheapest, because in my research, the cheaper models really do play much worse than, say, a moderately priced paddle or an expensive paddle. I think you're also going to be disappointed because it's highly likely you're going to play this game more than once, and the cheaper paddles tend to wear out, warp, delaminate, and so at the end you're almost paying more, or 2x, even though you're trying to stay more affordable. It's not unlike the Apple versus PC argument in terms of the world of computers. But buy something that's decent, and by decent, you're going to have something that you can rely on, is not going to fall apart, but give you a true feeling of the ball, so you have a true understanding of how to play the game. First of all, let me say that there are so many paddles out there, and if you read the descriptions of everyone's paddles, they seem to be very similar, or it becomes very confusing. I've found that it's the geometric shape that actually dictates the sweet spot. So there's nothing magical about paddle design other than choosing the exact or the specific geometric shape that you want your paddle to have. For instance, for argument's sake, let's just say this is relatively square. And this square shape actually lends itself, through physics, to give you the largest sweet spot. This would be an example of a longer, more rectangular paddle, and you can see the differences, right? And what the reason this is done is the longer paddle gives you more reach if you can't bend over, or you can get those really low balls, but it reconfigures the sweet spot. So you will never see an extended paddle also advertised with a large sweet spot. Large sweet spot is square. Extended paddles tend to have a relocated and smaller sweet spot. So I would say that the sweet spot in this particular paddle is closer towards the top and smaller than if we were to compare sweet spots on this more rectangular one. The sweet spot is generally felt to be the center part of the paddle face, where you've got the most control and you've got the most feel. Every sport has a sweet spot. A golf club has a sweet spot, a tennis racket has a sweet spot, and it's that area, and I'm sure ping pong paddles have a sweet spot, but it's that area where the equipment was designed for you to hit the ball. And you get the best control, you get the most power, you get the best feel. There's less vibration, etc., etc. So decrease aberrations, best feel. So that's kind of what I would call the sweet spot. And every racket and paddle is designed with a sweet spot in mind. Most have a carbon fiber mix, and the significance of this is that U.S. paddle regulations require that overall the surface is smooth, but have a friction coefficient within a certain range. So that really kind of dictates the surface that's used. You obviously want something durable, you don't want something that's going to chip, but it's got to be, it's the friction coefficient, and I don't even have a machine to know how to measure these, but that's the reason why most of these are fiberglass or carbon fiber surfaces, because there's only a certain type of material that is really going to give you the friction coefficient that you want and be durable. That is to say, regulations prohibit extra roughening of the surface. You can't put any glues on there to make it stickier so that you can grab the ball and put more English on it. You know, as I said earlier, that you really don't want to injure yourself, and even though a lot of new players especially are recreational and they're going to want to come out in any athletic shoe, you need to take caution and probably wear tennis shoes or basketball shoes, because you're moving in all kinds of directions, you really don't want to catch that edge of the athletic shoe and then roll your ankle. That's a big common problem in sports where you have move in all kinds of directions. Tennis, pickleball, basketball as an example. So whatever shoes would fit in tennis or basketball, I think stick with. You know, you do see pickleball shoes being advertised, and I personally, I don't think they're re-engineered. I think they're just relabeled tennis shoes. Well, we're very proud about offering a very good or excellent competitive paddle at a medium price. There are three elements that I feel that are very important in choosing a paddle. One is the shape, and if you want the largest sweet spot, then you go with the more rectangular. There's two other things that really are kind of hidden in all the descriptions. One is a honeycomb core, which about 90% of paddles are. The honeycomb core is the inside or the guts of the paddle. Honeycomb polymer is used in boat and airplane construction, which means it's rigid, very strong, and very light. And that gives the paddle the rigidness and gives you the power to hit the ball. Honeycomb polymer, by and large, is the same from paddle to paddle. There are some variations. It's because they have these hollow little honeycombs. It's one of the reasons that the sport is a little noisy. Right now, things are quite simple in terms of selection. We have the same paddle, which comes in three different colors: Passionate Pink, Orange Crush, and Purple Passion. And they differ only in their cosmetics. In addition, we offer a line of fully customizable paddles. Again, the same quality initial core, and we just customize with your design as long as it's a high resolution image that you want to submit. And that's really fun for families that may have a vacation house, a community club, or other organizations. We have a company that manufactures quality pickleball paddles to meet the needs of a growing population or a growing sport called pickleball. We offer medium priced but high value so that you can enjoy the game for season after season after season. I think we went into this industry realizing that most people are going to be bombarded by all the options on Amazon, and we wanted to stand out as a leader in the medium priced range, but really provide value comparable to the competitive products. What you get for that is value for your money and construction that's going to last and last. That's something you don't find in other paddles or lower priced paddles. To become a successful entrepreneur, you have to have an idea or a product that really brings value or solves a problem. That's just basic marketing. So you have to find something that people want or find something that people need. And then I think you have to obviously be an authority in that arena. And you really have to have passion about what it is or what you do, because that's going to bleed over in everything you do. You know, I always have this saying, as my kids will tell you, nothing worthwhile in life is easy. And just because you come up with the most perfect widget doesn't mean you're going to be successful. There are going to be unforeseen hurdles that you have to overcome, and you really have to rely on your passion and your energy and your dedication to your endeavor to have a successful entrepreneurship.